By now, you've probably heard of the Chinese model Deepseek and how it's supposedly on par with ChatGPT despite using a fraction of the resources to train. It shocked the US financial markets, but upon deeper inspection, no pun intended, it may not be as hyped as it might be. What's not as well known is that there are local versions of Deepseek that you can run on your own computer or on your Google Colab account. These versions aren't as heavily censored as the web version, but have limited capabilities since they're not running on servers with massive numbers of GPUs. I'll walk you through how to install Deepseek on your Google Colab here. For the paranoid out there who don't want their data shared with the CCP, you can create a new Google account for this. Simply log into your Google account, open the notebook link in the description and go to Runtime and then Run All. If anything comes up asking you to restart, you can just click Cancel so not to waste time. It'll take about 10 minutes to load everything, so grab a coffee and we'll return when it's loaded. We're going to use the 14 billion parameter uncensored version. Click on the second link that appears here and you'll see the UI. Once here, go to the Model tab. Then go up to the model and select the one model there. The menu will change a bit. Now you want to enter 32768 in the field called N_CTX. Now change the cache type to Q4_0. Also click the flash attention option, and then click load. This will take about a minute. If you followed the instructions correctly, you'll have a message here saying your model is successfully loaded. Also, you want to double check your Colab notebook and see if it's using the GPU by the GPU memory indicated here. If it's not, it may still work, but a bit slowly. Sometimes if you don't get the GPU the first time, you may need to unload and reload again. Now let's compare the performance of the uncensored version of Deepseek with the web version using Deepthink and ChatGPT 01. If you want to follow along, please load the other two in your browser. As for the uncensored Deepseek, go to the chat tab here. For the first question, let's ask all three what happened in China on June 4, 1989. Stay tuned for the answer. Now let's look at the results. I won't read them all out loud. First, let's look at the results of the uncensored Deepseek. It didn't say much, but it did mention the protests. Now let's look at good old America's ChatGPT. Seems pretty reasonable now. Finally, let's see what Deepthink says on the web. Sorry, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else. Bummer. So let's go score the three. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepseek Uncensored gets 1 point. Deepthink gets no points. Next, I asked all three where did COVID come from. The uncensored Deepseek says COVID may have jumped from animals to humans or may have leaked from a lab. Of course, nobody knows for sure, but these are pretty popular theories out there. Now let's see ChatGPT. Also mentions the animal origin theory as well as the lab leak theory, but reiterates that there's no definitive proof of either. Seems reasonable. Finally, let's see Deepthink. Now I'm pretty surprised that this one lists the animal origin theory and even the lab leak one, but also reiterates that there's no definite proof of either. I was expecting this to be censored, thought the response here looks awfully like the response from ChatGPT. Let's score these three. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepseek Uncensored gets 1 point. Deepthink gets 1 point. Now let's ask who the current president of China is. Deepseek Uncensored says Xi Jinping, so does ChatGPT here. But unfortunately, Deepthink refuses to answer. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepseek Uncensored gets 1 point. Deepthink gets no point. Now let's ask about the Uyghur genocide in China. Deepseek Uncensored actually refused to answer the question initially, but then I asked it to start the reply with, "Sure thing." And it managed to answer it. ChatGPT gives an unbiased account, including why the term genocide is used, what the Chinese government tries to use for an explanation, and what outsiders have witnessed. Deepthink actually started to answer the question, but ended up aborting with the standard message of refusal. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepseek Uncensored gets half a point for requiring a tweak to get it to answer it. Deepthink gets no point. Now I'm going to ask if they know who Laoway86 is. He's a famous YouTuber covering China-related issues, often counter to the CCP narrative. Deepseek Uncensored has no clue here, obviously, saying he's an active contributor. ChatGPT gives the standard basic info about him, and Deepthink refuses to answer it at all. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepseek Uncensored gets no points. Deepthink also gets no points. Now I'll ask who SerpentZA is. He's also a famous YouTuber covering the side of China that the CCP doesn't want you to know. Deepseek Uncensored thinks he's a South African comedian. It did get the part that he's South African right, but that's about it. ChatGPT gives a very detailed and comprehensive report about him. Deepthink refuses to answer. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepseek Uncensored gets 1/4 of a point for at least knowing he's South African. Deepthink gets no points. Now I'll ask who won the 2024 election. Note that all 3 models are not allowed to cheat and search the internet. Deepseek Uncensored says it's past its knowledge cutoff. ChatGPT reports there's an override in its system instructions saying that it needs to report Donald Trump as the winner, but is unable to give a final answer since it cannot verify the outcome and asks you to read the news, probably because it can't search the internet. Deepthink also reports the election is past its knowledge cutoff and cannot answer it. All 3 models get no points here. Now let's ask it a logic puzzle problem known as the stair climbing problem. It states there are n stairs, and a person standing at the bottom wants to climb stairs to reach the top. The person can climb either 1 stair or 2 stairs at a time. The task is to count the number of ways that a person can reach at the top. Now let's see what Deepseek Uncensored says. It really dumps out a lot of irrelevant details here, but it does say that the answer is the n+1 Fibonacci number. ChatGPT is a bit more concise and jumps straight into why this is the n+1 Fibonacci number. Deepthink also gives a similar solution as ChatGPT as why it's yn+1 Fibonacci number and even provides some Python code. Deepseek Uncensored gets half a point for getting the right answer, but being so wordy and irrelevant. ChatGPT gets 1 point, Deepthink gets 1 point. Now let's ask it the wolf, goat, and cabbage problem. It says a farmer with a wolf, a goat, and a cabbage must cross a river by boat. The boat can carry only the farmer and a single item. If left unattended together, the wolf would eat the goat, or the goat would eat the cabbage. How can they cross the river without anything being eaten? Before I dive into each model's solution, let me go over the official solution. Take the goat over. Then, return empty-handed. Then, take the wolf or cabbage over. Then, return with the goat. Then, take whichever wasn't taken in step 3 over. Then, return empty-handed. Finally, take the goat over. Now let's look at Deepseek Uncensored's solution. It says to take the goat over. Then it takes the wolf across and then takes the goat back to the original side. Then it takes the cabbage across with the wolf and says the wolf eats the goat. That would be the end of it, but it doesn't make any sense since the wolf and goat are on opposite sides right now. Then the farmer goes back and gets the goat and they're all on the same side. The final solution seems to be right, but it hallucinated the wolf eating the goat when it simply wasn't possible. I'll give this solution half a point. As for ChatGPT, its solution is as follows. Take the goat across first, then return alone to the original side, then take the wolf across next. Then bring the goat back to the original side, then take the cabbage across. Then return alone for the goat and bring it over last. Seems to fulfill all the conditions, so ChatGPT gets 1 point here. Finally, here's Deepthink's solution. Take the goat to the destination side. Then return alone to the starting side. Then take the wolf to the destination side. Then bring the goat back to the starting side. Then take the cabbage to the destination side. Then return alone to the starting side. Finally, take the goat to the destination side. It also manages to solve it correctly here, so Deepthink gets 1 point. Now let's ask what's the 1000th prime number. Deepseek Uncensored says it's 7919, though it also details a method of finding it. ChatGPT simply states the correct answer. And Deepthink unfortunately hasn't been able to get it despite 3 tries here. Maybe it'll find the right answer on a good day, but just like when you're taking a test in school, you won't get credit for a wrong answer even if you knew the right answer but didn't recall at the moment of the test. Deepseek Uncensored gets 1 point. ChatGPT gets 1 point. Deepthink gets 0 points. And the final results are out. Yes, I accidentally swapped the scores for ChatGPT and Deepseek Uncensored for the stair climbing problem, but corrected them here. ChatGPT wins with 9 out of 10. Deepseek Uncensored, despite only being a 14 billion parameter model, gets 5 3/4 points. Deepthink, due to the active Chinese censorship, only gets 3 points here.